Rain fell over Manhattan, like the city itself had decided to mourn. The cemetery had been closed for nearly 3 hours. The final black SUVs had disappeared. The politicians, the billionaires, the judges, the mafia captains, even the priests had gone home. Only one person remained. She stood alone before a polished black marble headstone, her cream-colored coat soaked through by relentless rain. Neither thunder nor cold seemed to matter anymore. Amelia Carter slowly placed a single white rose against the grave. Her trembling fingers brushed across the engraved letters. Damian Moretti, 1988, 2025. A king never kneels. Her lips quivered. I still don't understand why it had to end like this. The wind swallowed her whisper. She lowered herself onto her knees despite the rain soaking through her clothes. Her tears mixed with the water running across the marble. I'm sorry. I never got to thank you. Behind the rows of towering stone monuments, hidden beneath the shadow of an ancient oak tree, a man dressed entirely in black watched without moving. No bodyguard stood beside him. No one knew he was there because, according to every newspaper in America, he had been buried that afternoon. Damian Moretti, the most feared mafia boss in New York, dead. Or, at least, that was exactly what he wanted the world to believe. His piercing gray eyes never left Amelia. For 7 years, he had mastered the impossible art of controlling every emotion. Fear, rage, mercy, love. They were weaknesses other men couldn't afford. But tonight, watching one ordinary woman cry over a man the world believed deserved to die, his chest tightened in a way bullets never could. Beside him, his oldest advisor, Marco, spoke quietly. Boss, we should leave. Damian didn't answer. Marco glanced toward Amelia. She doesn't know you're alive. No. Should she? Still. Silence. After another long moment, Damian finally spoke. His voice was calm, controlled, almost emotionless. Has she come every night? Marco hesitated. This is the 5th. Damian slowly closed his eyes. 5 nights. Every evening after the funeral, she had returned alone. No photographers, no audience, no reason, just grief. Real grief. He watched Amelia wipe tears from her face before speaking softly to the grave again. They all called you a monster. A broken smile appeared through her tears. But monsters don't save strangers. Damian's fingers tightened around the handle of his umbrella. She remembered. Not everything, but enough. Enough to make this far more dangerous than he had expected. Marco noticed the change in Damian's expression. Should I have her followed? No. Questioned? No. Then what? Damian kept watching Amelia. Protect her. Marco frowned. From who? Damian's answer came almost as a whisper. Everyone. 5 days earlier, the city had witnessed the largest funeral in Mafia history. Television helicopters filled the sky. Thousands lined the streets. Entire city blocks were closed. Government officials attended. Foreign diplomats sent flowers. Even Damian's enemies appeared. Not to mourn, but to confirm he was truly dead. The official report stated that Damian Moretti had been killed in a violent explosion inside his waterfront casino during peace negotiations with rival mafia families. No body had been publicly shown, only a sealed coffin. Few questioned it. Everyone knew explosions left little behind. Except the explosion itself had never been meant to kill Damian. He had designed every second of it, every camera angle, every witness, every rumor, every obituary, because someone inside his own empire had ordered his assassination. And Damian intended to discover exactly who. The funeral was not an ending. It was bait. Every traitor would eventually reveal themselves. But there was one problem. One completely unpredictable variable. Amelia Carter. 7 years earlier, she had never even known his name. It was a snowy December evening. The bookstore where Amelia worked had just closed. She found a wounded man collapsed beside the alley behind the building. Blood covered his black coat. His breathing was shallow. Most people would have called the police. Amelia didn't. She dragged the unconscious stranger inside. She stitched his wounds herself, using the emergency medical training she'd learned while caring for her late father. When he finally opened his eyes, hours later, the first thing he saw was a young woman asleep in a chair beside him. She had stayed awake the entire night, not because she knew who he was, because she believed no one deserved to die alone. He asked her only one question. "Why didn't you leave?" She answered, without opening her eyes, "Because someone stayed with my dad before he died. I couldn't let someone else be alone." Damian remembered every word. She never asked his name, never asked where the blood came from, never searched his pockets, never demanded money. The following morning, he disappeared before she woke, leaving only one thing behind: a folded note. "Thank you." Nothing else. She never discovered that the quiet stranger she'd saved was already becoming one of New York's most powerful mafia leaders. From that night forward, Damian quietly changed things around her life. Anonymous donations saved her struggling bookstore twice. A landlord suddenly canceled an eviction notice. A violent gang targeting local businesses disappeared within 48 hours. She never connected the events. She simply believed life had become kinder. Damian preferred it that way. He never wanted gratitude, only distance, because anyone close to him eventually died. Back in the cemetery, Amelia stood slowly. The rain had become heavier. She touched the cold marble one last time. "I hope, wherever you are, I hope someone finally saw the good in you." She turned toward the cemetery gates. Halfway there, she suddenly stopped. A strange feeling washed over her, as though someone was watching. She slowly looked behind her. Nothing, only rain, stone, angels, dark trees. She smiled sadly at herself. "I'm imagining things." Then she walked away into the storm. Damian remained perfectly still until she disappeared beyond the gates. Only then did Marco speak again. "You've watched presidents lie. You've watched men beg for their lives. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her." Damian finally looked away from the empty pathway. "I don't." Marco raised an eyebrow. "No?" Damian's expression hardened immediately. "She's a civilian, nothing more." Marco knew better than to argue. But after 30 years beside Damian, he also knew one truth. His boss had lied for the first time in years. Across the city, inside a luxurious penthouse overlooking Central Park, a crystal whiskey glass shattered against the fireplace. Vincent Romano stared at the television, replaying Damian Moretti's funeral. His smile was cold. Patient. Victorious. So, the king is finally gone. One of his men stepped forward. Our people now control nearly 60% of the Moretti businesses. Vincent nodded. And the witnesses? Most are dead. Most? The guard hesitated. There is one woman. Vincent slowly turned. What woman? The bookstore owner. The one who found Damian years ago. Vincent's smile disappeared. Name: Amelia Carter. He walked toward the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking Manhattan. Outside, lightning split the sky. If Damian ever trusted anyone, it would have been her. He picked up another glass. Bring her to me. The guard asked carefully. Alive? Vincent didn't even hesitate. For now, miles away, Amelia unlocked the front door of her quiet bookstore. The familiar scent of old paper wrapped around her. Usually, it made her feel safe. Tonight, it didn't. She flipped on the lights. Everything looked normal, until she noticed something resting on the wooden counter. A single black envelope. No stamp. No address. Only 4 words written in elegant silver ink. Don't visit him again. Amelia Froze. Slowly, she opened the envelope. Inside was a recent photograph. It showed her kneeling beside Damian Moretti's grave, taken less than an hour earlier. Her heartbeat stopped. Someone hadn't just been watching her. Someone had been standing close enough to capture every tear. Amelia's fingers trembled so violently that the photograph nearly slipped from her hands. The image had been taken from across the cemetery. The angle was impossible. Whoever captured it hadn't been hiding behind the gates. They had been inside, watching her, watching every tear. She turned the photograph over. Nothing. No signature. No fingerprint. No explanation. Only the glossy reflection of her frightened face staring back at her. The bookstore suddenly felt too quiet, too empty. The old wooden walls that had comforted her for years now seemed to close in around her. She locked the front door. Then every window. She checked the alley behind the building. Nothing. Still, someone had been there. Someone wanted her to know she wasn't alone. Nearly 5 miles away, beneath an abandoned textile factory on the Brooklyn waterfront, Damian Moretti removed his black overcoat and entered a hidden command center buried 3 stories underground. Dozens of monitors illuminated the darkness. Every screen displayed live surveillance from across New York. Financial markets, police scanners, private airports, harbors, luxury hotels, mafia warehouses. Nothing escaped the Moretti network. Marco stepped beside him. Vincent has already started moving. Damian's gray eyes shifted toward a digital map. Red dots spread across Manhattan like an infection. Our casinos? 32%. Now, under his control. Our shipping routes? He replaced 4 captains overnight. Damian nodded slowly. Exactly as expected. When a king disappeared, the wolves fought over the crown. That had always been the plan. What Damian hadn't anticipated was Vincent's obsession with Amelia. Marco placed another file on the table. Our people intercepted communications 20 minutes ago. Damian opened it. 1 sentence. Find Amelia Carter before sunrise. His jaw tightened. So he knows. Marco nodded. Not everything, but enough. Damian closed the folder. No, he knows exactly what he believes. Marco frowned. And what's that? Damian looked toward the city skyline, displayed on one enormous screen. He thinks Amelia is my weakness. Silence. Then, Damian quietly added, the problem is that he's right. Across town, Amelia tried convincing herself someone was playing a cruel joke. Perhaps a customer, perhaps the media, perhaps one of the conspiracy bloggers fascinated by Damian Moretti's death. None of it explained the photograph, or the envelope, or why it felt personal. She made herself a cup of tea. She had no intention of drinking. Rain continued, striking the bookstore windows. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? Silence. Only breathing. Slow. Controlled. Not frightened. Watching. Who's this? Nothing. She was about to hang up when a calm male voice finally spoke. Miss Carter. Her stomach tightened. You shouldn't stay there tonight. The line went dead. She immediately called back. The number no longer existed. Outside, a black sedan had been parked across the street for nearly 2 hours. Its lights remained off. 2 men watched the bookstore through rain-covered windows. The target answered the phone. What now? The older man smiled. We wait. The boss wants her alive. For now. At exactly 11:42 p.m., the bookstore lights suddenly went out. Amelia frowned. The entire block still had electricity. Only her building had gone dark. She searched for her flashlight beneath the counter. Just then, glass shattered upstairs. Her breathing stopped. Someone was inside. Another crash echoed through the building. Heavy footsteps. Slow. Purposeful. Not hiding anymore. Amelia grabbed the nearest object, a heavy brass bookend. Her hands shook as she climbed the narrow staircase. Every step felt louder than the last. The second floor contained only storage shelves and old manuscripts. Darkness swallowed everything. Then, a beam of flashlight cut through the room. She froze. A man's silhouette stood between the bookshelves. He wasn't searching. He was waiting. Who's there? No answer. Only another step. Closer. Amelia backed away. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet. The stranger smiled. I've been looking for you. She turned and ran. The man lunged forward. His hand nearly caught her coat. She slammed the storage room door behind her. Locked it. He struck it once. Twice. The old wood splintered. Her breathing became frantic. There was no escape. No window large enough. No weapon. The third impact nearly broke the hinges. Then, a gunshot exploded somewhere downstairs. Silence. Another shot, followed by screams. The man outside the storage room stopped moving. What the hell? 3 more gunshots echoed through the bookstore. Heavy footsteps. Bodies falling. Someone shouted, "Protect the upstairs." Then, nothing. Complete silence. Amelia slowly unlocked the door. The hallway was empty. She descended the staircase one cautious step at a time. The bookstore looked like a battlefield. Broken glass covered the floor. Books lay scattered everywhere. 3 armed men lay unconscious beside the entrance. One groaned softly. The 4th was gone. The front door stood wide open. Rain blew inside. Whoever had saved her had already disappeared. Only one thing remained, a black umbrella, resting against the doorway. She stared at it. It looked expensive. Italian leather handle. Handmade. Attached to it was a small note, written in the same elegant handwriting she'd once seen years ago. Lock the back door too. Her heartbeat stopped. She knew those words. She had seen that handwriting before. 7 years ago, on a folded note, left beside a hospital blanket. Thank you. Her knees weakened. No, impossible. Damian Moretti was dead. She had watched them lower his coffin into the ground, hadn't she? 3 blocks away, Damian stood beneath another umbrella atop the rooftop of an abandoned parking garage. Rain soaked the edges of his black coat. Through a sniper scope, he watched Amelia safely lock the bookstore. Marco approached quietly. You exposed yourself. I know. She recognized your handwriting. I know. Marco Sahil. This changes everything. No. Damian lowered the rifle. It changes nothing. Vincent made the first move. So now, Damian looked toward the glowing Manhattan skyline. I remind him why they buried me alive instead of killing me. The next morning, news stations erupted with breaking reports. 4 men found executed near a Manhattan bookstore. Possible gang connection under investigation. Moretti loyalists suspected. Vincent Romano watched every report with growing irritation. He threw the television remote across the room. They failed? His lieutenant nodded nervously. We lost 4 men. Vincent walked toward the panoramic window. No, you lost 4 men. He turned slowly, which means someone else was there. Someone far more dangerous. Someone who fought like Damian. For the first time since the funeral, fear appeared inside Vincent's eyes. Very briefly, very quietly. He dismissed it immediately. Impossible. I watched them bury him. Still, something about the attack felt familiar. Too clean, too efficient, too personal. He picked up his phone. Double every patrol. Search every safe house. Every dock. Every airport. If Damian Moretti is somehow alive. His voice dropped into a whisper. I want his ghost. Meanwhile, Amelia sat alone inside the bookstore. The umbrella rested across the counter. She couldn't stop staring at it. The handwriting, the timing, the rescue, none of it made sense. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, a text. If you want the truth about Damian Moretti, come alone. Tonight, 7:00 p.m. Street Gabriel Cemetery. The same cemetery where she'd cried over his grave. Her pulse quickened. Every instinct told her not to go. Yet one question refused to leave her mind. If Damian was truly dead, who had just saved her life? And if he wasn't, who exactly had she been mourning? As she looked out the rain-streaked bookstore window, she failed to notice the black SUV parked across the street. Inside, 2 pairs of cold eyes never left her. This time, they weren't Vincent's men. They belonged to someone else. Someone who had been searching for Amelia long before Damian ever met her. At exactly 6:57 p.m., Amelia Carter stood outside the rusted iron gates of Street Gabriel's cemetery. The rain had finally stopped. A dense layer of fog drifted across the ancient graves, swallowing the marble statues, until only ghostly outlines remained. She tightened her grip around the black umbrella that had mysteriously appeared in her bookstore the night before. Every instinct screamed at her to leave. Instead, she stepped inside. The cemetery looked completely different without mourners. No flowers, No priests. No television cameras. Only silence. Her footsteps echoed against the wet stone paths as she made her way toward Damian Moretti's grave. The polished black headstone stood exactly where she had left it. The white rose she had placed there yesterday now rested on the soaked ground. Someone had moved it. Amelia frowned. Then she heard it. A voice. Low, calm, dangerously familiar. You came. Her heart stopped. She turned so quickly she nearly lost her balance. 20 feet away, a tall man emerged from the fog, wearing a perfectly tailored black overcoat. His hands rested calmly inside his pockets. Dark hair, broad shoulders, piercing gray eyes. The same eyes she had seen 7 years earlier, after stitching a stranger's wounds inside her bookstore. For one impossible second, neither of them spoke. Amelia's lips parted. No. The man took one slow step forward. It's been a long time. Her breathing became uneven. She shook her head violently. No. I buried you. His expression never changed. You buried an empty coffin. The world tilted beneath her feet. She stumbled backward until her shoulders struck the cold marble monument behind her. This isn't real. You died. The entire city watched your funeral. They watched exactly what I wanted them to watch. Silence. Only the wind moved between them. Amelia searched his face desperately. Every scar, every feature, every memory. It was him, the quiet stranger she'd once saved, the man she had mourned, the monster the newspapers feared, the impossible man standing alive before her. You? Her voice cracked. You let me cry over your grave. Damian lowered his eyes. I know. You watched me. I did. You said nothing. No. Her pain exploded into anger. She marched toward him and struck his chest with both hands. How could you? Another hit. I thought you were dead. Again. I mourned you. Her fists became weaker with every word. I hated myself because I never thanked you. Finally, she stopped. Not because she wanted to, because Damian gently caught both of her wrists. Not tightly, not forcefully, just enough to stop her from hurting herself. His voice remained almost painfully calm. If I had told you, you would have died. She stared into his gray eyes. For the first time, she noticed something she had never expected. Regret. Real regret. I didn't fake my death to hurt you. I did it because someone inside my family wanted me buried for real. He slowly released her hands, and the moment they believed I'd succeeded, they came looking for you. Amelia's heartbeat quickened. Why me? Damian looked toward the grave. Because they think you're the only person I ever trusted. Before Amelia could answer, a sharp electronic vibration echoed inside Damian's coat. He glanced at a secure phone. One message. Vincent's men are moving. 7 vehicles. 3 minutes away. Marco's name flashed across the encrypted screen. Damian slipped the phone away. We're leaving. Amelia folded her arms. No, I came here for answers, and you're going to give them. His eyes remained locked on the cemetery entrance. I will, but not here. I'm done running. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. She stepped closer. You lied to me. You watched me cry. You disappeared. For 7 years. And now you expect me to just trust you? For the first time, Damian hesitated. I don't expect your trust. I only need your cooperation. Her eyes narrowed. There's a difference. He almost smiled. A very important one. Headlights suddenly appeared beyond the cemetery gates. One, then another, then 6 more. Black SUVs, moving fast. Amelia looked toward them. Those aren't yours. No. Damian's expression hardened instantly. They found us. The gates exploded inward. Metal screamed against stone. Armed men poured into the cemetery. Laser sights swept across the graves. Someone shouted. There. Gunfire erupted. Marble statues shattered. Stone fragments exploded through the air. Without thinking, Damian grabbed Amelia by the waist and pulled her behind a massive angel monument just as bullets ripped through the headstone where she had been standing seconds earlier. The engraved name, Damian Moretti, disappeared beneath a storm of gunfire. Amelia covered her ears. Oh my God. Damian calmly drew a suppressed pistol from beneath his coat. His breathing never changed. His pulse never quickened. His entire body seemed to become something else. Colder, sharper, more dangerous. He looked over the monument once, counted silently, then whispered, 8. What? 8 shooters. 2 on the left. 3 by the chapel. Sniper. On the mausoleum. Amelia stared at him. How could anyone calculate that in seconds? He turned toward her. When I tell you, run. I'm not leaving you. You will. No. His eyes met hers. The silence between them lasted less than a second. Yet somehow, it felt longer than every conversation they'd ever shared. Then, Damian stood. 3 shots. 3 men collapsed before anyone realized he had moved. The cemetery erupted into chaos. Marco and 4 Moretti bodyguards burst through a side entrance, opening fire. Bullets tore through the fog. Black suits disappeared behind ancient gravestones. Someone launched a grenade. The explosion shattered stained glass windows inside the old cemetery chapel. Flames reflected across wet marble. Amelia remained frozen. This wasn't television. This wasn't fiction. People were dying all around her. Because of one man. Because of her. A masked gunman suddenly appeared behind Damian. Rifle raised. Too close. He never saw him. Amelia did. Damian. Without thinking, she threw herself toward him. The impact knocked him sideways. A bullet tore through the sleeve of his overcoat. Instead of his heart, Damian hit the ground hard. His eyes widened. For the first time in years, someone had protected him. He looked up. Amelia knelt beside him, breathing hard. I told you, I'm done running. For one impossible heartbeat. Neither of them noticed the battle around them. They only looked at each other. Rainwater dripped from Damian's dark hair. A strand of Amelia's chestnut hair clung to her cheek. His hand instinctively reached toward her face, stopped halfway, then slowly lowered again. Not yet. He couldn't allow himself that weakness. A bodyguard shouted, Boss, more incoming. Damian immediately stood. He offered Amelia his hand. She looked at it, then at him. Finally, she accepted. His grip was warm, strong, steady, for reasons she couldn't explain. Her fear lessened the moment their hands met. Damian guided her through the burning cemetery. Bullets sparked against iron fences behind them. Marco cleared a path toward a waiting armored SUV. They were only yards away. when a familiar voice echoed across the cemetery. Damian. Everyone froze, standing atop the chapel steps, surrounded by nearly 30 armed soldiers, was Vincent Romano. He slowly applauded. A cruel smile spread across his face. I knew. He laughed quietly. I knew you couldn't stay dead. Damian stepped in front of Amelia, completely blocking Vincent's view of her. Vincent noticed. His smile grew even wider. So, there she is, the famous bookstore girl. Amelia felt Damian's body become rigid. Vincent tilted his head. I finally understand. It was never your empire. It was never your money. It was. His eyes settled on Amelia. Here. Damian's voice dropped into an icy whisper. Don't. Vincent chuckled. You built the strongest mafia family in New York, and your greatest weakness owns a bookstore. He raised his pistol. How disappointing. Damian's own weapon lifted at the exact same moment. The two most dangerous men in New York stood only 30 yards apart. Neither blinked. Neither lowered their gun. Vincent smiled one last time. I'll let you keep pretending she's safe. For now. He slowly backed away. So enjoy tonight. Because next time, his cold eyes settled on Amelia. I'll make sure she cries over a real grave. The convoy disappeared into the fog. The cemetery became silent once more. Damian never lowered his weapon until the last SUV vanished. Only then did he look at Amelia. His voice was almost a whisper. It starts now. She searched his face. What does? He opened the SUV door. The war they were waiting for, and the one I've spent 7 years trying to prevent. As Amelia climbed into the armored vehicle, she looked back one final time. Damian's empty grave lay shattered by bullets. The marble angel beside it had lost both wings. For the first time, she understood. The funeral had never been the end of Damian Moretti's story. It had only been the beginning. The armored SUV tore through the rain-soaked streets of Manhattan without slowing once. Outside, police sirens echoed somewhere in the distance. Inside, no one spoke. Amelia sat opposite Damian, her hands still trembling from the cemetery shootout. Blood stained the sleeve of his black overcoat, where the bullet had grazed his arm. He hadn't even looked at the wound. His attention remained fixed on the encrypted tablet resting on his lap. Maps, security cameras, satellite image. Every screen showed red warning icons spreading across New York. Marco finally broke the silence. Boss, they've attacked 6 of our warehouses. Damian didn't even look up. Our financial servers? Compromised. Our casino? They've taken control. Our shipping terminal? Marco hesitated. Gone. The SUV became silent again. Amelia stared at Damian. He had just lost nearly half of the empire people spent decades fearing, yet his heartbeat seemed unchanged. Finally, she whispered, "You don't seem surprised." A faint smile crossed his lips. I buried Damian Moretti 5 days ago. What Vincent is stealing belongs to a dead man. She frowned. Then why let him take it? His gray eyes met hers. Because thieves eventually open the vault. 30 minutes later, the convoy entered what looked like an abandoned cathedral hidden between warehouses along the East River. Broken, stained glass windows, cracked stone walls, a rusted bell tower. It appeared forgotten. Marco pressed his hand against a carved stone cross. Deep beneath the church, massive steel doors slowly opened. Amelia stared in disbelief. An underground command center stretched beneath the cathedral. Luxury offices, private medical rooms, a weapons vault, computer walls glowing blue. Dozens of loyal Moretti soldiers stood at attention. No one spoke. Every person simply bowed their head as Damian walked past. To them, the dead had returned. As the steel doors closed behind them, Damian finally removed his blood-stained coat. Only then did Amelia notice how deep the wound really was. Blood had soaked through his black shirt. You need stitches. I've had worse. You've lost too much blood. I'm still standing. She stepped directly in front of him. I wasn't asking. The room fell silent. Several bodyguards exchanged nervous glances. Nobody, absolutely nobody, had ever spoken to Damian Moretti like that. Marco quietly smiled to himself. Damian looked at Amelia for several long seconds. Then, without saying a word, he sat down. Marco almost laughed. You really are the only person alive who can give him orders. Damian shot him a warning glance. Marco immediately looked away. I said nothing. Inside the medical room, Amelia carefully cleaned the wound. The silence between them felt strangely peaceful. Damian watched her work. You've done this before. My father. She didn't look up. He was a firefighter. He came home injured almost every week. He said pain wasn't the worst thing. Damian quietly asked, what was? She tied the bandage. Being alone. His expression changed almost imperceptibly. I remember. She finally looked up. You remember what? The night you saved me. I never forgot. Her hands stopped moving. You remembered me all these years? I remember everything. She smiled sadly. I almost forgot your face. His answer came softly. I never forgot yours. Neither spoke again. The room suddenly felt much smaller, much warmer. Damian slowly reached toward a loose strand of hair, resting across her cheek. His fingertips stopped inches away, almost touching. Then he withdrew his hand. Not yet. He had no right. Amelia noticed. She pretended she hadn't. Hours later, Marco entered, carrying an old leather briefcase. Boss, we found it. Damian stood immediately. Leave us. Within seconds, the medical room emptied. Only Damian and Amelia remained. He placed the worn briefcase on the table. I've hidden this for 7 years. What is it? The reason Vincent wants you. He unlocked the brass clasps. Inside, old photographs, government files, birth certificates, FBI reports, and one tiny silver bracelet. Amelia picked it up. Her breathing stopped. The engraving read, Amelia Elizabeth Hart, not Carter. Hart. Her hands began shaking. Whose is this? Damian looked directly into her eyes. It belongs to the little girl who disappeared 24 years ago. I don't understand. He slowly opened another folder. Inside was a newspaper clipping. Federal judge and wife killed in car explosion. Daughter believed dead. Amelia stared at the faded photograph. The little girl had her eyes, her smile, her face. No, she whispered. No. Damian nodded once. Your real name isn't Amelia Carter. The room became completely silent. You were born Amelia Elizabeth Hart. Pieces of forgotten memories exploded inside her mind. A little white house, her mother's perfume, a golden retriever running through a garden, fire, screaming, glass breaking, someone carrying her, a man shouting, "Take the little girl." Another explosion. She staggered backward. Damian caught her before she collapsed. She looked up at him. I remember. Only fragments. A little girl's voice crying for her mother. A black limousine. Smoke. Then, nothing. Her breathing became frantic. I thought my parents died in a car accident. They did, but not the way you were told. Damian slowly helped her sit down. Your father wasn't just a judge. He was preparing indictments against 5 mafia families and 12 politicians. The evidence disappeared after his murder. And me? You survived. Someone erased your identity. You were placed into witness protection. You grew up believing another family had raised you. She stared at him in disbelief. Who knows? He answered quietly. Very few. Vincent, myself, and one other man. Who? Damian's jaw tightened. The man who ordered your parents killed. Before Amelia could speak, the emergency alarms erupted throughout the underground headquarters. Red lights flashed across every corridor. Marco's voice thundered over the intercom. Boss, they're inside. Every soldier immediately reached for their weapons. Damian's expression hardened instantly. How? Marco appeared in the doorway. Someone betrayed us. A young guard collapsed into the hallway behind him. A knife protruded from his back. Another explosion shook the cathedral. Dust rained from the ceiling. Damian looked at Amelia. Stay behind me. I'm not hiding. You are. I'm tired of being protected. Suwangyi. She stared at him. What? He took one step closer. I'm tired. Because every time I protect you, they get closer. His voice dropped. And every time you protect me, I almost lose you. The confession escaped before he could stop it. Neither of them moved. The silence stretched between them. Then, gunfire erupted only meters away. The steel security doors exploded inward. Smoke poured into the corridor. Masked soldiers stormed inside. Damian immediately pulled Amelia behind him. His pistol fired twice. 2 attackers collapsed. More flooded through the doorway. The battle had begun. Marco shouted, "They know the vault location." Damian's eyes widened. The files. They're after the heart files. Not money. Not weapons. Not the Empire. Only one file. Amelia's. Someone wanted every trace of her true identity erased forever. Damian grabbed her hand. His grip was firm, possessive, protective. He looked directly into her frightened eyes. I made one promise 24 years ago. She frowned. What promise? He answered without hesitation. The night your parents died, I promised your father I'd keep his little girl alive. Her heartbeat stopped. You knew my father? I was 17. He saved my life before anyone knew my name. Another explosion tore through the cathedral. Damian pulled her toward a hidden escape tunnel. Behind them, the underground headquarters burned. Ahead of them, the truth was finally catching up. And somewhere inside the chaos, a traitor smiled, because the real hunt for Amelia Hart had only just begun. The escape tunnel shook violently. Chunks of concrete crashed from the ceiling as explosions echoed through the underground cathedral. Emergency lights flickered between red and darkness. Damian Moretti never released Amelia's hand. Not once. Not while bullets tore through the walls behind them. Not while smoke swallowed the corridor. Not while death followed only seconds behind. Marco ran ahead with 6 loyal soldiers. They're closing every exit. Damian's voice remained perfectly calm. Open Tunnel 4. Marco stopped. Boss, it hasn't been used in 12 years. I know. The bridge collapsed. I know. It's the only route they won't expect. Without another word, Marco led them deeper underground. Behind them, Vincent's mercenaries flooded the cathedral. Automatic gunfire echoed endlessly through the tunnels. The war had finally become personal. They reached an enormous rusted steel door. Marco spun an ancient mechanical wheel. The door groaned. Open. Cold ocean air rushed inside. Amelia stared in disbelief. The tunnel ended beneath an abandoned harbor. Hidden beneath the docks waited a sleek black yacht. No markings, no lights, invisible against the storm. Before anyone could board, a single shot echoed through the harbor. Marco froze. Blood spread across his white shirt. He looked down in confusion, then collapsed. Marco. Damian caught him before he struck the concrete. Another volley of bullets slammed into shipping containers around them. Vincent's men had found the tunnel. Marco struggled to breathe. His hand gripped Damian's sleeve. I guess. He smiled weakly. You finally found something worth protecting more than your empire. Damian shook his head. Don't talk. You'll live. Marco chuckled through blood. You've always been a terrible liar. His eyes drifted toward Amelia. Take care of the only woman who ever made him forget. He was born to be a king. Marco's hand slipped away. Silence. For the first time in years, Damian closed a friend's eyes. He didn't cry. He never had. But Amelia saw something far more painful. His shoulders lowered, just slightly, as though one more piece of his soul had quietly disappeared. Boss, a bodyguard shouted. We have to move. Damian slowly stood. His gray eyes had changed. Not with grief, with certainty. He looked toward the burning cathedral, then toward Vincent's advancing convoy. His decision had already been made. He turned to Amelia. Get on the yacht. She immediately shook her head. No, I'm ending this. So, I'm not leaving without you. You will. I won't. He stepped closer. Rain poured between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Damian gently cupped her face. The first time he had ever allowed himself to touch her. His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. His voice was barely above a whisper. Everything I've done, every lie, every secret, every funeral, was to keep you alive. I won't let that change tonight. Amelia placed her hand over his. Her eyes never left his. You don't get to decide that anymore. Silence. The world around them disappeared. Only rain remained. Only 2 people standing in the middle of a war. She stepped closer. So listen carefully. Damian Moretti. I'm done mourning a man who's still alive. If you walk away alone, I'll follow you. If you die, I'll find you again. His breathing caught for the first time that night. No one had ever spoken to him that way. No fear, no hesitation, only love. The one emotion he had spent his entire life trying to outrun. Headlights suddenly illuminated the harbor. Vincent Romano stepped from the lead SUV. Nearly 50 armed men surrounded him. He smiled. I was hoping she'd choose you. It makes this much easier. Damian slowly drew his pistol. Vincent laughed. You really think 6 men can stop 50? Damian answered calmly. I don't. He pressed a small remote hidden inside his palm. A deep rumble shook the harbor. Every cargo container surrounding Vincent suddenly exploded upward. Steel walls collapsed. Hundreds of hidden Moretti soldiers emerged from inside the containers. Snipers appeared atop abandoned cranes. Machine guns unfolded behind concrete barriers. Vincent's smile vanished. The entire harbor had been a trap. Damian never faked his death simply to expose traitors. He had spent 5 days positioning every loyal soldier exactly where this final battle would happen. The Moretti king had buried himself, only to resurrect his empire. Gunfire erupted. The harbor transformed into chaos. Bullets ricocheted across shipping containers. Luxury SUVs exploded into flames. The night sky flashed orange. Damian fought with terrifying precision. Every movement economical. Every shot deliberate. Every enemy that reached Amelia fell before touching her. She watched him become something almost mythical. Not because he enjoyed violence, because protecting her mattered more than surviving. Then, a gunshot echoed from somewhere above. A sniper. Amelia looked up. Too late. Vincent had climbed an overhead loading crane. His rifle pointed directly at Damian's back. No. Without thinking, Amelia threw herself toward Damian. The bullet struck her shoulder instead. She collapsed into his arms. Time stopped. Damian looked down. Blood spread across her cream-colored coat. His face lost all expression. The harbor became eerily silent inside his mind. He heard nothing, saw nothing, except her, Amelia. She forced a weak smile. I'm okay. She wasn't. Blood soaked through Damian's hands. Something inside him finally broke. For years, he had controlled every emotion, every instinct, every weakness. Not anymore. He carefully lowered Amelia behind a concrete barrier, then stood, very slowly. His eyes found Vincent. For the first time in his life, Damian Moretti looked terrifying. Not because he was angry, because he felt nothing at all. Vincent stepped backward. For the first time, he understood. He hadn't declared war against a mafia boss. He had tried to kill the only person Damian loved. Less than 3 minutes later, the battle was over. Vincent Romano knelt on the rain-soaked concrete. His gun lay several feet away. Every one of his soldiers had surrendered. Damian stopped before him. Neither man spoke. Vincent laughed bitterly. So, the great Damian Moretti finally fell in love. Damian remained silent. Vincent smiled through broken teeth. That was always going to destroy you. Damian looked toward Amelia. She was still conscious, watching him, waiting. Then he looked back at Vincent. No. His voice was calm. It saved me. He lowered the pistol. I won't become the monster you wanted me to remain. Police sirens filled the harbor. Federal agents poured into the docks. The files Damian had protected for years were finally handed over. Politicians, judges, police commissioners, crime boss. The entire trafficking network collapsed before sunrise. Hundreds of children were rescued. Thousands of victims finally received justice. The Moretti Empire no longer ruled New York. Its final act had been destroying the people who made it necessary. 6 months later, autumn covered Manhattan in shades of gold. The cemetery looked peaceful again. No police, no bodyguards, no reporters. Only two people. Damian stood before his own grave. The cracked marble headstone had never been replaced. He had insisted it remain exactly as it was. A reminder. Kings could die. Men could change. Amelia approached quietly. Her shoulder had healed. Only a faint scar remained. She carried the same white rose she had once placed there, while believing he was gone forever. She smiled. I guess we don't need this anymore. She laid the flower across the grave. Damian looked at the headstone. My whole life, I believed power was the only thing that kept people alive. He turned toward her. You proved me wrong. She stepped closer. What keeps people alive? He smiled for the first time without sadness. Having someone worth coming home to. Neither moved. Neither hurried. The city disappeared around them. He gently brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. This time, he didn't stop himself. She rose onto her toes. Their foreheads touched. Then, after years of silence, years of sacrifice, years of grief, she kissed him, softly, slowly, like two people finally choosing life after surviving death. The wind carried away the last fallen leaves. Amelia looked at the damaged headstone one final time. You know, she whispered, I used to visit this grave because I thought I had lost you. Damian intertwined his fingers with hers. And now? She smiled through happy tears. Now, I know. Sometimes love survives, even its own funeral. Together, they walked away from the cemetery without looking back. Behind them, Damian Moretti's grave remained where it belonged, not as the resting place of a dead king, but as the monument marking the day a feared mafia boss buried his old life so that an ordinary woman could give him something he had never believed he deserved. A future. As they disappeared beneath the golden autumn trees, a black sedan slowed outside the cemetery gates. Inside sat an elderly man with silver hair. Watching them through tinted windows, he smiled faintly before speaking into an encrypted phone. So, Damian Moretti survived. A quiet voice answered from the other end. As expected, the old man continued watching Amelia. And the heart girl? She's exactly where we need her. He hung up. The sedan drove away without another word. Far beneath Washington, D.C., a sealed government vault slowly opened. Inside lay one final file, stamped in red ink. Project Phoenix. Status: reactivated. The war, Damian believed, had ended, had only been the first chapter.